Welcome. My name is Buddy Cranber. I'm the VP of Operations here at the Bernard Group. Welcome to the team. Glad you're here. Today, our goal is to provide you with production tours. The desire behind these tours is to give you insight, view into how the work is being done. The goal is not to provide you detail into your role or responsibility as much as to highlight our value streams, highlight some of the people that you'll be meeting along the way, and show our shops up a little bit so you get familiar with some of the areas that you'll be navigating through during your job shoot. With that being said, let's get started. The first area we're going to highlight today is really the first area outside of our T1 production area called T-Pop. T-Pop is referred to as temporary point of purchase. And as you can see in the environment behind me, we focus on a prototyping area. On the other side of the wall in the office area, we have our structural design engineers who are working tirelessly to provide a great design and engineered process that we then bring out here and we do proof of concept. So we prototype it, try to do a white form to make sure it fit forms and functions. We then bring in some print elements. Sometimes those print elements will be through the hard proof process because we got to make sure color and detail are there. Other times we can really slap up a quick print just to make sure fit, form, and function all works out. The output of this area is really a prototype. We try to navigate that process with the project management team to make sure we can do customer reviews. In here, just to be clear, we have a few assemblers who are prototyping. We have our own cutting capacity. We have some short-term printing solutions over here, not necessarily our production equipment. And then we also do some lamination opportunities over here as well to make sure that all of those prototyping opportunities are happening outside the stream of production. Super important to keep those two very focused on and parallel. The first area I'm going to highlight here is some of our digital press equipment. Here we use a manufacturer called AGFA. AGFA provides 4 presses, 3 which are in our retail business unit, 1 which is in our online business unit. And so the AGFAs, these are called Toro 3300 UHSs. They are typically 7-color profile printers that are running either border or roll. They're called hybrids. And the idea behind them is very consistent, profiling's consistent. We can go from press to press based on capacity, and they're providing prints to multiple substrates from a lot of thicknesses of sheet to a lot of different types of rolls. We can print to a pre-laminated substrate, post-laminated substrate, and all sorts of variety. What I want to highlight in this area is more about the value stream and less about the printer. We come this way a little bit further. The value stream on approach here is how we try to keep work flowing through at a very safe, efficient, and proficient way. As you can see, we have a laminator here. It's laminating the sheets when we need to do so. That can feed right into the printers who are then printing those sheets, which then go right through this cutout on the wall, and that feeds right into cutting operations. So the goal here is a material handler or a forklift might bring a skid of raw goods up here, but after that point, from a laminating, printing, and cutting process, we can completely process that work without the need of any additional material handling support, all the way to a finished good product. The goal here is more of a one-piece or one-job flow. We're not having to batch work and transport work. The idea here is eliminating as many of the 8 ways to manufacturing as possible. The next area we're going to highlight is called our dye sublimation area. Dye sublimation is different than your digital print, and we're actually printing onto a transfer paper. That paper is processing through a conveyor where it's heating it up to a certain temperature. At the certain temperature, the dots will actually infuse into the material. And to make it really simple, like a lot of rugs, a lot of different things out in the marketplace use this process from a very cheap to manufacture, a lot of really beautiful prints. But in our process, you're going to see multiple assets. We have a printer, again, digital printer that's printing to either the direct to substrate or to transfer. We have what we call a transfer unit. Here we have 2 types of transfer units. We have a roll and a rigid transfer unit. The roll transfer unit then feeds into our cutter. We have a brand new state-of-the-art Suma laser cutter here that will be then cutting that product. So you're getting the print, the transfer, and the cut of the product all in one consistent flow. Rigid transfer unit, we use this transfer unit to do more of the rigid substrates. We use a lot of Chromolux for our online portfolio and some other things that make the rigid necessary for our business. Dye sublimation is a great value stream. It offers the ability to print to a lot of fabrics that then can be packaged more consistently. They're lighter, they're smaller. The shipping costs then are a lot cheaper, so it makes a much more friendly, economical shipping method than a traditional rigid substrate. We're constantly here at the Bernard Group looking at how automation and robotics are going to change the way in which we operate. We have the same type of Toro, but in this example we have a couple loader and unloaders. Today we're using these beds to transfer the work back and forth. We use it for a lot of our large, rigid projects. It allows our operator to focus on the quality of the product, and it streamlines the process of printing and brings down our labor costs to do so. We do some niche printing here. There are some certain clients that have a desire for really unique type of print applications. And so even though we can hit a large gamut of print applications with our Toros, we do have some niche assets. The one I want to highlight here is called our Swiss Q. The Swiss Q, which this is called the Nyala, is more of your traditional flatbed printer. This one though ultimately has the capability of doing rolls as well. Different than our other platform, this value stream allows you to bring different types of inks to your product. We can do neon inks on here, which gives you a whole different look and a whole different type of gamut to hit. On top of that, we have a varnish on here. The varnish allows us to really print a two-dimensional image that gives it more of a three-dimensional pop. You can do spot varnish that can showcase or highlight sweat of a can of soda, things of that nature to emote more of the image to the customer. You won't have to know which press to use based on what job you do. We got a huge support system with a color team and a planning team that will really help walk you down that journey. The other printer we're going to highlight here is what we call our Braille printers. ADA printing is something we took on a few years back. We recognized the client's need. We also looked at how do we do ADA signage, and we ultimately ended up with these really cool Braille printers that allow us to bring files in, print out not only the Braille, but also the image and the text onto the substrate that keeps us in ADA compliance and allows for a really fast, cheap, economic solution for our customers. Being in this building, we are going to highlight this back value stream. This is an important value stream, but this one highlights our online capabilities. At the Bernard Group, we also have our sister company, SmartPress.com. We've learned over the years of doing work that our SmartPress customers are different but equally important as our retail, the Bernard Group customers. We call them raindrops versus big storms. As a project comes in, that gets a lot of focus. But as we have 29,000 active customers as we record this today and growing daily, we have a lot of smaller customers who are very important to us. This value stream here really runs all of the laminating, printing, cutting, finishing, and application processes without ever impeding on the large format retail workflow. As we talk about value streams, we kind of ran through the front end of a few different ones. So we talked about die sub, digital press, we talked about OLF, which is that online lane. To stay within that digital lane, this is our cutting department. Out here we use what we call Zunes. They're great machines, they're Swiss built, they're long lasting. You're able to cut, and while you're cutting on one, you're able to load on the other, and you're able to have more of a continuous cutting methodology. Our goal here is to constantly make sure that the things that are value add to our customers. In this example, when we're cutting, we want to make sure we're cutting as much as humanly possible. And here we're using 11 different carts. The printers that we touched on earlier will be printing on those 11 carts. Those 11 carts will flow through that cutout that we talked about and roll into 4 different cutters. And as those cutters are constantly processing that work, the empty carts go back into printing and we keep printing. If at any given time we have all 11 carts full of printed product, we stop printing. The whole point of here is to support the global flow of optimization. It also allows our labor to augment to where the work is most needed. But if we've got all these carts filled with print, let's stop printing, let's bring our print operators out here, let's have them help support the unloading and loading of cutting tables to make sure we can optimize that workflow. In this area, we have 4 cutters over here. On the other side of the lane here, we're working with a big guillotine cutter. Traditional guillotine cutters that we have over and online, which we have a small one here as well. And then our big retail one, which is large format, 127-inch guillotine blade. And the last piece of the cutting equipment that we want to highlight is what we call our D3. Our D3, which is a newer state-of-the-art piece of equipment from Zune, is a fully automated cutter. Similar to our fully automated press, we're able to load a full pallet of materials up. It can then read those materials, process that work, take it off of the cutter, stack it up on another pallet, and we can pull that pallet of work out. This cutter also has 2 gantries on it, meaning we're cutting 2 times the speed of a normal Zune. This gives us the opportunity to get much more tighter to that price point of die cutting, a little bit faster, a little bit cheaper than what we're doing with traditional guillotine cutting. It helps bridge the gap, some of the work we do. We call this application, finishing, heat bending. It does a lot of different things, but it's kind of this At the end of print cut process, before things become, we call it FGI here, but really just to define that it's finished goods inventory. Prior to things becoming finished goods, meaning the production process has now ended and the packaging, kitting, or however we determine to bring it to the distribution center, that can begin. We do a lot of different things here, from magnet application, tapes application. We have a few different heat benders. We can do a lot of simple heat bending, 1 heat bender, 2 heat bends that can keep things flowing through our kitting lane. We're not having to send it to a different building to then process it and bring it back. The goal here is to stack up the appropriate amount of WIP, and WIP just to define that work in progress. You always want to make sure you have the amount of happy, healthy work in progress staged and ready for your assets so you don't starve out. To starve out will bring down our capacity, but not too much where you're having to make decisions on what I need to do next or spend energy in trying to sort and discern what is the most important thing to do. That then creates additional waste. So over here, we stack these parts. This team over here processes them through, make sure they're ready to go. And this is usually one of the last production processes of those goods. They will then move into our kitting incoming area, which we'll highlight in a minute. And those are now prepared to start the packaging and kitting process. This entire production floor is managed by the Director of Print Production, Sean Daly. Underneath Sean Daly's umbrella, we have a production manager named Tim Williams. And Tim will be a manager who's on the floor working in concert with the production supervisors, project manager leadership, to make sure that we're staying fluid. Things are navigating and really solving any problems, and always working on CI initiatives, CI being continuous improvement. And then in application, we call it post-production and kitting. We have our Director of Post-Production, which is John Ernst. And then we have our managers. We have Chelsea Edwards, who is our manager of finishing and application area. Similar to application, it's that last step of the process to create that finished good. In this environment, we do a lot with sewing. Those fabrics come up, they roll in, and in here we do a lot of sewing of those fabrics. We'll do SEGs, which is silicone edge graphics. We're putting on a silicone edge that then allow it to snap into a frame. We're big believers that quality should be built into the process. As operators and employee owners, we have to be responsible to make sure that what we're doing is right, and we have to be confident that what we're doing is right because we know it's right because we've done these steps to guarantee and to quantify that what we're doing is right. I want you to be rest assured we have quality steps in every one of these areas. In this example, we do a lot of testing. We put a lot of these graphics in these frames. Sometimes we'll define that we need to do 100% inspection. And that's something that we build into the process flow to make sure that every graphic fits. Because at the end of the day, when this hits the store, one thing has to happen. It has to fit in the frame. If it doesn't fit in the frame, we've failed no matter what else happens. We just got done talking about all the different value streams, all the different production processes that make up T1 production or large format print production. To actually get what the customer needs, we have to be able to bring in things together, label them appropriately, pick them appropriately with the right quantities, get them into a box, make sure that box is accurate, have the right packaging materials in that box so we're protecting the product that we just got done making, and then making sure it's all dialed in together and getting to the customer appropriately. All that starts in an area called kit incoming. As you can imagine, there's product coming in from different value streams all day long, and there's a certain rhyme and reason to that. We have a system called PrintFlow that schedules all this stuff, and it keeps in mind all the things that need to come together in order for a kit to start at a certain point. We have what we call a kit setup team that is constantly engaged into our kit incoming area, that is pulling the product as it's being checked in to make sure they can start setting up these bigger kit jobs in order to make sure we can then kit these jobs appropriately. So we use these cones and these barcodes to allow for flexibility while still having traceability. Everything in this entire environment is traceable from the minute it becomes its first format off of raw goods. So the raw good comes in, it's locatable, and from there we use our Cladder system to locate everything. We can use that through the simplicity of our phones, scanners, whatever the tool needs. We have the ability to trace everything. We're done with kit incoming. Our setup team has taken that product and we've set up the line. Let's go see how kitting kits it. With kitting, we have this thing called the distribution list, or better put, just like what are the order of shipments that we have, what is the demand, and then what are the SKUs that are needed to complete that shipment. And in this environment, what we're basically doing is having a list of those shipments and the SKUs that need to be completed to finish those shipments, and then we have a pick and pack process. We use a very simple alpha coding system here, 2 letters rather than a large number of SKUs. To find AA, for example, or in some of these examples, an OAD, it's way easier to quickly identify that, pick it appropriately than what would be a traditional SKU of 6, 8 to 10 characters of numbers. So in here, we're using pick slips, we're identifying what the pieces are, we're putting them into a box. We then use belts. We found that these conveyor belts really help set the tone. We are not only just managing to the quality of the product and making sure it's exactly what the customer expects, but we're also managing to an expected time to operate to. There's 2 sides of the story. Great product at the right timeline to ultimately get the margins we're expecting from these jobs. We're able to dial it in, turn the belt on, move it to the right speed, and then we can manage that the right work is going at the right volume. Before we close that box up, we do quality checks along the way. We document those quality checks so we can then show back if something does go wrong. We've done these checks, here's how we're doing them, and it brings that peace of mind at the end of the day. Oftentimes, kitting can feel like this unappreciated last thing that has to get done in order to get what we need to our customer. They're not quite valuing that product. But in my opinion, this is the most important process of the entire value stream. No offense to all the fun stuff that happened earlier, but this is the team that's the last piece of TBG ownership before the client has to open that box. We put a lot of emphasis into doing PM checks. When these lines get set up, we'll work within harmony with those PMs. They'll come out, they'll do one last check, make sure the quantities are right, make sure the images are appropriate, make sure that first kit is exactly what the customer needs. Being a project manager here is also being an advocate for our client, making sure there's connections and relationships with that you have the opportunity to validate what's right. I mentioned we're a continuous improvement company, and as you can see in some areas, we try to standardize everything. We believe heavily that everything that has a standard has the opportunity to be consistent. The whole goal in manufacturing appropriately is that consistency is boring and boring is good. We don't want to be running around here with hair on fire or feeling urgent. That's how mistakes and risks start happening. As you can just define, right, where the hammer goes, what the standard for shrink wrap is, even different distribution centers you work with and how high the pallets need to be. Anything that we can create visual management that speeds the process up while standardizing it is only a win for consistency, which is also a win for our customer. We're going to highlight shipping. Obviously very important to make sure this stuff gets out appropriately on the right trucks, in the right order. We also have a team back here that can support some of those smaller turn things. We might have a hard proof we got to ship out, it's got to get out the same day. They also support all of our online shipments. They're constantly back here prepping those shipments to get out every day. Over 200 orders a day rolls out of here just for online as of today, and that's growing every day. We have 8 shipping lanes. So those lanes are ready and prepped for all the different trucks we need to navigate through. Certainly a big part of what we need to do is making sure we have good direction, shipping labels are done right, there's quantification that things are going to get to the right destination. And this team does a great job of making sure all that hard work on the front end is finalized, packaged up well, and getting out the door appropriately. I want to make sure we touch on safety out here. There's a lot of moving parts here. We have a lot of people working hard on serving our customers in all these different value streams. We did a really good job in defining walkways and forklift lanes. We have a lot of signage saying, be aware of this, look out for that, caution on this. We ask everybody's help in being owners of being safe here. It is super critical that when you are on the production floor, your phones are in your pocket, not looking at them as you're walking around. Step out of the lane, step out of the walkways. If you have to look at your information out of your phone or take a phone call, we need to be aware out here. We're in somebody else's area and they're working hard to make sure our customers are served. We don't want to be a bother or a distraction to that. It's all up to us to make sure we're being safe. We have forklifts that are driving around. They're going to look out for you. They're going to look to try to have eye contact with you. Don't not look at them when you see them. Let them know you see them. Be approachable. Give them the eye contact. You'll meet, you'll make sure you feel safe, and everything will go a lot better. At the end of the day, we want to make sure every employee is safe. We want to make sure everybody has the opportunity to come back tomorrow and do the great work that they're destined to do. Do your part, be aware, and thank you for taking that into consideration. Our EcoVadis Platinum status as we have it today is something that's very important. We're also ISO environmentally certified. We believe taking care of our environment while making our product is super important to all of us as co-owners. One of those responsibilities is how well we can recycle. We have what we call flipping. And this only works because we have employees that care greatly about doing this, because it is work. We have to be purposeful, we have to be intentional, and by doing that, we're making a big impact. We have greatly reduced the amount of landfill product we're providing every year. And on top of that, we're able to supply this back to recycling programs that do be able to bring it back into the environment, which is what we're all about. programs that allow us to define all the different material types we have. It tells you exactly what it is. It tells you where you can find more information. Our EHS team has done a wonderful job in setting us up for success. I want to continue to encourage, as you navigate your products, if you have stuff at your desk or you're looking to find a waste stream for it, feel free to ask. Most know exactly where that needs to go. They're happy to help you to make sure we stay within standard of our recycling programs. Happy you're here, looking forward to working with you. Just know you have a lot of resources here to support you, people that know the process inside and out. If you're not sure, please raise your hand. We're here to support. This is a sign of strength, not weakness. Again, thanks for taking the time to watch the video, understand the floor a little bit. Hopefully you come in having a little better understanding around where things are, who people are, and how we navigate. And I really hope you enjoy your time here, making a difference. Have a great day.